Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News with a kickoff coming up very shortly indeed. It seems Sentinels have finally officially confirmed that pANcada is out of the starting team and Zelsis is in for the new season. Various reasons going around about this one, even discussions on visa problems that pANcada might have had over the last couple of months, but also Chamber, another buff for Chamber recently here coming into play. What does that mean for certain Chamber players in the league? What does it mean for the meta when the kickoff officially starts, especially if this patch update is actually going to come into effect by the time they play? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. These are the dates, by the way. The VCT Americas on the 16th of February. Pacific starts on the 17th. A few days later in the other regions. And lots of these games will be running basically in parallel over the course of the next couple of weeks. So it's going to be a hectic couple of weeks of Valorant around the world. Very much looking forward to it. But firstly, we've got to talk about Chamber. So this is probably not going to be in the game by the time the kickoff starts. And it's not like it's a drastic change in some respects, but it is nonetheless quite influential given that Chamber has been slowly creeping his way back into the meta more and more. We saw notably Son of Car the other day on the Icebox dropping a 40 bomb with the Chamber, and it feels like teams, I wouldn't be surprised if they have Chamber on their radar as a viable piece of their compositions once again. Of course, he dominated the meta for a long time, got heavily nerfed, but slowly I think he's creeping somewhat back in. So a couple of things. Headhunter price down to 100 from 150. That's actually a pretty big deal. And then the Tour de Force, which of course is the sniper rifle, the orb, whatever, the ultimate, increased back from 0.7 to 0.9. I mean, you guys remember when it was first out at an insanely, ridiculously fast firing rate. That was then reduced substantially, and now it's somewhat better. So just a couple of things, but feels to me like a good change overall, bringing Chamber to slightly higher degrees of viability. And I think that certain teams will see this and want to make it work in their compositions. I think it helps certain players, you know, Yay and others. I'm not sure this is enough to say, all right, Bleed Esports, they're winning it all, you know, Yay's going to be back, Cryo's going to be back, and all these guys that were notable for their Chamber work. But maybe that's true in some part, and I think those players will probably see this and think, all right, maybe we can give Chamber a go again. They might start to use it in practice and see actually it does work, and Chamber is a valuable proposition, because I do think that he can be. I guess the question is, should this have been done now? Will it be in effect for the kickoffs? Probably not. It'll come into effect probably for the start of the regular league matches or Masters Madrid or, you know, whatever the case is potentially going to be. And we know that Chet, coach of NRG, has been going off on the main stage generally about his frustrations over the timing of these changes, and actually Mothman did an interesting interview here with him. I'll just share a couple of moments from this. Firstly, I did want to show this just hilarious thing that's been going around as a bit of a copy pasta actually. So as he writes at the top of the article here, just to make sure this is kind of fully on screen, Chet has never been one to shy away from voicing his opinion on Valorant. From format complications to balance tweaks at game, he will let you know what he thinks. I thought that was a pretty funny little phrase, but he does go on to let us know what he thinks on certain things. Firstly, on the groups they've come up with, because it's no secret that NRG don't have the group of death exactly. Loud, Sen, Lev, 100T is a scary group. NRG are with Furia, Cloud, and MIBR. So Chet actually says, we have some pretty good opponents. I mean, everyone's kind of good. I mean, franchise partnership level teams, but we don't really know how good. I've heard a decent amount about Cloud9, how they've been looking pretty decent. So that's kind of interesting to hear that he's heard from certain other teams that Cloud9 looking pretty good. They didn't look so good at the Tarek Ludwig Invitational, but maybe that's changed. Haven't heard too much about Furia or MIBR. They're under the radar. They've got a lot to prove. So do we. We're just going to make our game pretty refined. So on paper, should be a relatively comfortable start to the season for NRG, but as I've said before, you really want to be the #1 seed out of these groups. Like, just getting out of the group isn't necessarily enough, because if you get out as the second seed, you've got to play a play-in against two other teams, one of which will be a very good team from Group B, in order to even make it to the playoffs, where you've then got to play 2 more matches again. So you really want to be the #1 seed here, and I'm sure that NRG know that full well. Should also, though, comment on the Sky changes, because this, I think, was the key frustration for many, that Sky was nerfed quite dramatically, really, just before the start of the season. After weeks of practice by the pros, the game then changed quite substantially, and that is going to be reflected in the patch update for the kickoffs in just under a week or so's time when the Americas one begins. As Chet says, the Sky change was so random, I don't know who asked for that. It was not good for any team because you're practicing a certain style. That changes how the agent is played. You have to be more committed on your flashes, or you have to save them. And to be honest, like, the way Chet describes this actually makes it sound like the Sky change was a pretty good change, a pretty viable. I gotta agree. I think Sky was too strong. I think she needed to change. I think it's really the timing of the change that's frustrated Chet among others. You have to make more decisions based on that kind of stuff, and it's the only initiator that doesn't fit with their game design, or it doesn't have a rechargeable ability, which I don't know if they're trying to get away from that or not. There's not really a lot of transparency on these decisions behind the small posts they make in the patch notes, which is a fair point as well. Maybe if they explained why, what the theories are, the pros would be slightly happier with them. But yeah, what he said on the first part kind of makes me think that actually the Sky change does make sense. I think it is just the timing that has frustrated some of the pros. Chet also says this: I can't believe how much ISO is dominating pro scrims right now. Maybe part of what he's trying to do here is throw other teams off the scent in terms of what they're practicing. There have been rumours as to what the Sentinels compositions are going to be, for example, what they're cooking up on maps like Ascent and elsewhere. I think that this is almost certainly sarcasm. I think he's almost certainly baiting about the viability of ISO. I just don't see, especially NRG. I don't know, maybe there's certain players that I can see using ISO, but I just think it's very doubtful to be used, especially NRG practicing with it. I somewhat doubt it, and there's zero chance that ISO is dominating in pro scrim. So I think we can safely assume that Chet is probably just joking around a little bit here. Before we discuss Sentinels, though, I've got to mention this to Evil Genius is, when I saw this, I was like, oh my god, here we go again. And there's two ways you can kind of perceive this. Either Evil Genius's social media management is just so brain dead and clueless they have no idea what's going on, or they actually really do know what's going on. And it's kind of like a laughing at us, laughing with us type thing. But as they say, L.org. But I genuinely hope the team exceeds everyone's expectations like they did last year. I'm pretty sure this is a copy pasta. Like somebody replied to them with, I believe this. That's why exceed is spelled wrong with exceed with the E at the end. So I think that's what this is. But the fact that EG are calling themselves an L.org in their own tweet is kind of funny. Like, I think the social guy, whoever's running the socials over there, fair play, because I can't imagine they're in a decent spot right now, and probably their mindset is, you know what, like, we're just going to lean into the criticism somewhat, and usually that, you know, from some organizations that works, like G2 and others, they kind of have that feeling that, you know, they'll lean into the memes, they'll lean into the criticism, and it can be a good strategy. I think in Evil Genius's case, it doesn't really feel the same, because they're not really that type of organization. It's quite clear that they have screwed over many players and individuals over the last several years. So I'm not sure that this is going to, you know, people don't see them kind of joking around about themselves being a bad organization and say, oh, you know, there they go again, you know, little soft teddy bears of Evil Geniuses. People are like, you know, we call you an L.org for a reason, get the hell out of esports type thing, which is what some people, you know, still agree with. But yeah, EG for now, they still are in esports. They were going to be gone. They were pretty close to being gone. If Riot had said, you know what, FlyQuest, yeah, here you go, EG, you're out of here, then EG would basically be gone from esports. But no, they're forced to field the roster for now until Riot decide otherwise. But after months of speculation, we do have a word here from Sentinels on what's going on with their team. We saw yesterday, TenZ straight up said it in an interview that Zellsis brings good energy, brings good in-game communication to the team that pANcada didn't necessarily, and that's why they've made this change. That's why they feel like it's a step in the right direction. But Sentinels had never officially said Zellsis in pANcada gone. However, they do tweet this out. Live video of Zellsis breaking up the team. Zellsis then replies, can we announce that I'm starting now? And, you know, Sentinels say, you're starting to get on my nerves. But if we just exclude the last part, you're starting, right? So I think, you know, this is now a done deal. It is confirmed, especially when pANcada actually made some comment to this effect on stream. So he was on stream yesterday, still playing in Brazil. So this is kind of fascinating. Sassy had some sort of visa, not exactly issue, but like, I think he had to get his visa renewed, Sassy, and for some time they were scrimming. I think this was maybe around about the new year sometime, maybe just December, January, something like that, when he was playing from Brazil and actually practicing with the team from Brazil, and their scrim results weren't so good. People are like, oh, what's going on with Sentinels? Are they washed since they won the Africa TV tournaments? But it doesn't seem to be the case, and Sassy was playing on high ping, I imagine. He then got that sorted and was back in the States, as we have seen over the last couple of weeks. So that's probably why pANcada hasn't been seen in any of the team pictures and any of the shots, any of the content, is because he's either stuck in Brazil or he's voluntarily in Brazil. We're not exactly sure what the explanation behind that is. Whether pANcada is just deeply frustrated with the circumstances at Sentinels and wants out of there and therefore isn't going back, or whether there's actually something else to it. But yeah, pANcada has said, and this, I mean, the quote was pretty quick really, and it was obviously translated from Portuguese, but he just said, you know, eager for what? Because people said, are you looking forward to playing the event in February? obviously, if you know ball, you knew that that wasn't happening. And pANcada's like, what do you mean? Like, I ain't playing in that one, dog. I'm on the bench type thing. Now, there was some discussion that Rob Moore talking about pANcada visa issues. We don't know if that's still the case or not. So I'm assuming that if they got Sassy sorted, they either could have got pANcada sorted or they have got pANcada sorted. And he's either choosing to stay in Brazil or, you know, the team just doesn't want him there for whatever reason. We just don't really know. But if you're pANcada, what are you thinking right now? Because I can't imagine that he's happy with the situation. And I know that some people are saying, oh, Sentinels should let him go. You know, they should just release him so he can do whatever. But then again, you kind of need a good substitute player because TenZ is almost certain to get unwell at some point. You know, this guy's getting it every couple of weeks. So, and also TenZ is now their controller, really. Like we talked about it yesterday, TenZ said that he's now going to play the Omen and the Astra, whereas Zellsis will be sometimes on the Viper and do a little bit of different things. But the main controller player is basically now TenZ for Sentinels, and that is pANcada's role. So, you know, if TenZ was to have some sort of illness or whatever, which is usually, you can pretty much count on it being the case at some point, then pANcada would be a great sub to bring in for TenZ for a game, but he's not even in the States right now. He's not even in California with the team, so that is obviously suboptimal. But also for pANcada, I'm sure he doesn't want to sit on the bench forever, but from his perspective, he's got not exactly a cushy gig, but he's still getting paid to be on the Sentinels bench, and he gets to stream and, you know, chill in Brazil with his boys, I suppose. So all things considered, it's probably not a bad idea for pANcada to kind of keep going with that one, as long as the current circumstances remain as they are. Until, of course, a team that pANcada actually wants to go and join has opportunities available. We know that FNS is trying to probably pull off a similar thing with SOM maybe in this season, looking at teams like 100T or some organizations like that that might need to make a change at some point to try and get to the next level, and then saying, all right, that's a good, you know, core of players to go and join. And maybe pANcada has similar thoughts about Loud or similar thoughts about Lev as well, about potential future options for him. So, of course, understandably, lots of criticism about this. As Rocket Bullet says, you know, pick up the champion smokes player from Loud, force him to learn a new language, force his role change as well because he was on the Sentinel for some time, and then drop him from the team. So, you know, but look, at the end of the day, has it improved their results? Yes. I mean, they got better bringing Zeldas in for pANcada, so I don't think you can blame them for this decision. It's just tough for pANcada, and I do think that they'll get an opportunity elsewhere going forwards. Maybe it is only just a matter of time. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.